Let's say you have an entire application that you want to deploy on the permaweb and have it stored permanently so that you can easily access it through hundreds and hundreds of gateways. Let's see how you can do that. So here I have a very simple React app. And if you want to see how it looks like, it's just this. I think if you've watched some of the previous videos, you've seen this component many times again. So there are two different ways you can do that. You can either upload your application using the UI, using the Arweave web app, or you can upload your application programmatically. And in this tutorial, we're going to upload the application programmatically using a package called permaweb-deploy. So first thing you do, you add that package to your web app. So it's called permaweb-deploy, just like this, right? You wait for that to install, and then you can start doing the upload. All right, so now that you have this SDK installed, you can just clear the console. I want you to pay attention to this wallet.json file, and this is going to be the wallet that I'm going to use to deploy my application on the permaweb. This is my JWK for my RConnect wallet. You can also use an Ethereum wallet. You can also use a Solana wallet. And I've made tons of videos on how you can use those ones. So in this case, I'm just going to use the RConnect wallet and this wallet.json file. And I'm not going to open that since it's private. I've added it to my git ignore so that it never gets deployed accidentally on GitHub. Okay, so now that you have everything set up, there are different ways you can also do this. You can either do it from your CLI locally, or you can set this up so that it runs as a GitHub action whenever you do deployment on GitHub. And so coming here, we need to have the deploy script, right? And this is going to be deploy. And we can run this script however we want. We can either run it from the CLI or run it from the GitHub action, as I said before. So this is going to be first thing you need to do, the build. So you do npm run build. The second you need the second command you need here, if you're using RConnect or any Arweave wallet, you need to encode that into base 64. And after encoding the wallet into base 64, you have to add it to a variable and name that deploy key. So this deploy key, if you change this, it won't work because it looks for exactly this deploy key. So then you do the wallet, which is wallet.json or whatever name you give it, you need to encode that into base 64. But if you are using, for example, an Ethereum wallet or a Solana wallet, you don't need to do this encoding. You can just add the wallet directly here to the deploy key variable. And so when that is done, now it's time to use the permaweb-deploy. The next thing we do here is we do permaweb-deploy, and then we add RNS. And this is the RNS name we want to deploy to. So it's going to be Merdikim in this case. But then I don't want to deploy to the, if you leave it this way, it's going to deploy to Merdikim. But then I want to use an undername because if you go to merdikim.any gateway, you'll find that this is my personal blog. So I want to do undername because I want to upload to undername. And this undername, I'll name it like it's going to just be test, right? But then to show you that this will really work, I'm going to try to come to my browser and do test underscore merdikim. And this will not, I'll just do .ar.io. And this is going to show you the boilerplate of any RNS, or actually, since it's the undername, it tells you not found because that undername is not yet created. But with this command, if the undername doesn't exist and this wallet is a controller or the owner of this RNS name, it's going to create the undername and do the deployment to that undername. And for that, this wallet needs to have turbo credits. And yeah, my wallet has turbo credits in this case. So yeah, that should be everything we need. So I'm going to run npm run deploy and see how this is going to turn out. So it's npm run deploy. And hopefully this should compile very well and then deploy our application. And there you can see an error here saying RNS not found. And that's because this is not RNS, but RNS name. And also here you do permaweb-deploy, right? You need to specify that you're doing the deployment. So I come back here, I try to run this again, npm run deploy. So yeah, here as you can see in the console, the application has been built, and then the next phase here is the RIO stuff happening with Turbo behind the scenes, trying to deploy the built application on Arweave. So you can see it initializes, it checks for the record and see if the wallet that is trying to deploy has some control over that RNS name. And then the folder has been uploaded here. You can see this is the link, the Arweave transaction ID, but then it's trying to update the Arweave name token to assign another name under this name. So if that succeeds, we'll go back to the browser and go to test_murdykim, and we should see the application running over there. Okay, and everything seems to have deployed successfully. You can see here, deployment successful, undername is test, and everything here is set up perfectly. So you can see with this one line, we are able to deploy an entire application on the PermaWeb using this SDK permaweb-deploy. And yeah, that's the easiest way to deploy on the PermaWeb. And also, for example, if you want to set this as a GitHub action, all you need to do is to have this as an environment variable, maybe this wallet.json, and set that to GitHub and point to that in your deploy script. And as easy as that, you're able to also set the GitHub action. And so next here, we're going to see one of the probably easier than this, but using the CLI. So that is going to be completely from here. We're going to use the CLI rather than using this deploy script. But I think before we even proceed here, let's try to go back to our browser and see. Yeah, you see, the application has been deployed. It's here and on test_murdykim.ar.io. And this proves that our deploy script here has worked by building the application, then deploying it using my rconnect GWK and also my RNS name. You always have to make sure this RNS name is controlled by this wallet here, either by being the owner of the controller. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So next, let's try to use the CLI and use the interactive CLI to try to deploy an application. And so we get to the CLI, and all you need to do is npx permaweb-deploy, right? As you can see, it's almost similar to what we did in the script in package.json, but the only difference here is you don't need to pre-fill these RNS name and undername and all other tags. The CLI is going to prompt you to do that. So if I click enter here, yeah, you'll see we are in interactive deployment mode. And the first question we are asked is to enter our RNS name. And here my RNS name is Murdykim. It also asks, do you want to deploy a folder or a file? In my case, I'm going to deploy a folder. And the folder, in this case, it's going to be dist because this is where my build application is. So I'm just going to do dist. And actually, I think I can leave it empty because it's going to prefill it by dist by default. And so next here, how do you want to provide your wallet? You have different ways. You can provide a wallet file path. You can provide a GWK or the private key right here, or the environment variable. In my case here, I think I'm going to use the wallet file path, right? And my wallet file path here is going to be equal to wallet.json because you can see my wallet.json here, and it's the default, it's the recommended one. So I'll just click enter. And so configure advanced options. Yep, let me configure some advanced options so that you can see which advanced options are there. And the first one is the undername, and the undername is going to be, in this case, test, because you already have test as undername there. And the TTL is going to be 60 seconds. I'll leave that as default. And also you select the network. In my case, I'm going to deploy on mainnet because the RNS name I'm having is on mainnet. You can also choose testnet if you're trying to play around with testnet. So I will click mainnet and also enable on-demand payment. I'm not going to cover this one in this particular tutorial. This will also have its own separate tutorial, but just to give you an idea, on-demand payment is when, for example, you want to deploy your application and you don't know how much it's going to cost, or you don't have enough Winston credits. You can have on-demand payment in a sense that if If the application is unable to deploy with the credit you have, it's going to ask you to top up. I'm not going to do that in this video. That will come in its own video. And you'll see that deployment will start. And let's see if this is going to work. And at the end of the day, if it works, you should see the same table here with deployment successful. And there you can see, just as before, we have a deployment successful, which means this has also worked and our application has been redeployed again. You can see the two ways you can programmatically deploy your application on the PromaWeb, either by using the interactive CLI directly or by setting a script that can just run either locally or from something like a GitHub action, right? And you can set some of these tags and everything will be deployed automatically. So with that quick demo, you can see how easy it is to deploy your web apps to the PromaWeb and also assign your RNS name directly without having to think about all these stuffs behind the scene. And you can automate this deployment as easy as that. In the next video, I'm going to explain this on-demand payment a bit further and hopefully show you a working demo of that.